The first alien diplomat. Tried human cuisine. The aftermath. Got it banned. Across the sector, Ambassador Jin Woo straightened his black diplomatic suit and checked his reflection in the metal wall of the space station. Today would change everything. After 300 years of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they finally had an answer. Not only were they not alone, but they had been invited to join something called the Galactic Federation. The space station, called Harmony, Point floated in neutral space between Earth and the Federation territories. It was massive, bigger than any human structure ever built. The walls were made of some kind of smooth white material that seemed to glow with its own light. Strange symbols covered the corridors, written in languages that human computers were still trying to understand. Jinwoo walked through the long hallway toward the main meeting room. His footsteps echoed in the silence. Behind him walked Dr. So Young, the mission science officer, and engineer Tae-min, who had spent months learning about alien technology. They were the first humans to ever set foot on an alien structure. "Are you nervous?" So Young asked quietly. Jinwoo smiled. Terrified, but excited too. "We are about to meet beings from other worlds." They entered the meeting room and Jinwoo stopped breathing for a moment. The room was enormous, with a circular table in the center. But what caught his attention were the beings already seated around the table. The first creature looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and shiny black skin. Its eyes were compound, like a fly, but much larger. It wore some kind of metallic clothing that clicked when it moved. This had to be one of the krill tack that the Federation had told them about. Next to it sat something that looked like it was made of living crystal. The being was transparent, with light moving through its body like colored water. It had no face that Jinwoo could see, but somehow he knew it was looking at him. The Silnari, he remembered from the briefings, but the being that made Jinwoo's heart race was sitting directly across from where the humans would sit. It was tall and thin, with blue-green skin that seemed wet. Its head was elongated and it had large, dark eyes that never seemed to blink. When it moved, Jinwoo could see gills opening and closing on the sides of its neck. This was Velthar, the representative of the Merdai species. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Velthar spoke, and its voice sounded like water flowing over rocks. The words came from a small device attached to its chest, translating its language into English. "I am Velthar of the Deep Current. I speak for the Merdai in this first meeting." Jinwoo bowed slightly as he had practiced. "I am Ambassador Jinwoo of Earth. These are my colleagues, Dr. So Young and Engineer Tae-min. We are honored to meet you and grateful for this opportunity." The next few hours were filled with formal talks. The Federation explained their rules, their history, and what they expected from new member species. Humans would need to prove they were peaceful, that they could follow Federation law, and that they would not disrupt the order that had kept the galaxy stable for thousands of years. Jinwoo listened carefully, but he found himself watching Velthar. The alien delegate took notes on a device that projected symbols into the air. Every few minutes, it would drink from a clear container filled with what looked like glowing water. It never ate anything, never seemed to relax, and never showed any emotion that Jinwoo could recognize. During a break in the talks, Jinwoo walked over to the large windows that looked out into space. The view was incredible. Stars stretched in every direction, and he could see ships from different worlds docked at the station. Some looked like metal flowers, others like living creatures swimming through space. "Your species finds beauty in the void," Velthar said, appearing beside him silently. Jinwoo jumped slightly. He had not heard the alien approach. "Yes, we do. We have always looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. Curious. The Merdai see space as emptiness, to be crossed, nothing more." Velthar paused. You have many rituals, I have observed. You consume heated liquid multiple times during our talks. Jinwoo smiled. Coffee. It helps us think and gives us energy. It is also a social activity. We often share meals and drinks when we meet with others. Share meals, Velthar repeated, the words slowly. You mean you consume nutrients together? Well, yes, but it is more than that. Food is culture for humans. We prepare it differently in different places on Earth. We use it to celebrate, to show friendship, to express creativity. Jinwoo realized he was speaking quickly and slowed down. Do the Meridai not eat together? We consume nutrient solutions, as needed for biological function. There is no social component, no creativity, no celebration. Velthar's large eyes focused on Jinwoo's face. This is inefficient behavior. Yet your species has achieved space travel while maintaining such practices. Jinwoo felt a strange excitement building in his chest. This was the kind of cultural exchange he had hoped for. Would you like to observe one of our meals? We have a small kitchen area in our quarters. The other aliens in the room suddenly went very quiet. The crystal being, which had been humming softly, stopped making sound. The insect creature's compound eyes turned toward them. The Meridai do not consume solid matter, Velthar said carefully. Our digestive systems are designed for liquid nutrients only. Of course I understand. But perhaps you could observe, learn about our customs? Jinwoo felt like he was pushing, but something told him this was important. Cultural exchange was one of the goals of this meeting, wasn't it? Velthar was quiet for a long moment. Jinwoo could hear the soft bubbling sound the alien made when it breathed. The Federation Council would consider this unusual, potentially risky. All first contact is risky, Jinwoo said. But that's how we learn about each other. Your logic is sound. Velthar turned to look at the other aliens. I will observe this human ritual, for diplomatic purposes only. The crystal being suddenly pulsed with red light. The insect creature made a chittering sound that the translator did not convert to words. Jinwoo had the feeling they were not happy about this decision. Excellent, Jinwoo said, trying to hide his excitement. We can arrange something simple, nothing that would violate any of your biological needs. As they returned to the formal talks, Jinwoo caught So Young looking at him with wide eyes. She had heard everything. Taemin was shaking his head slightly, probably thinking about all the rules they were about to break. But Jinwoo felt like they were about to make real contact, not just political contact. Food had always brought humans together. Maybe it could bring species together, too. He had no idea that this simple invitation would change the entire galaxy forever. The first alien diplomat tried human cuisine. The aftermath got it banned across the sector. 3 hours later, Jinwoo stood in the small kitchen area of the human quarters aboard Harmony Point. Chef Hyejin was already there, preparing ingredients. With the focus of a master artist, she had volunteered for this diplomatic mission specifically because she believed food could speak across any language barrier. Are you sure about this? Hyejin asked, chopping vegetables with quick, precise movements. The briefing said alien digestive systems are completely different from ours. Velthar agreed to observe only, Jinwoo replied, but his voice carried uncertainty. Though I think there might be more curiosity there than they are willing to admit. Taemin entered the kitchen carrying several scanning devices. I've been reading everything I can find about Meridai biology. Their systems are designed for liquid nutrients, but theoretically, they could process small amounts of solid matter if it was prepared correctly. So Young looked up from her tablet. The other species representatives are not happy about this. The Kriltak delegate sent 3 formal complaints to the Federation Council. They think we are trying to contaminate their ally. Jinwoo watched Hyejin work. She had chosen to prepare simple dishes that represented different parts of Earth. A pot of kimchi jjigae bubbled on the heating unit, filling the air with rich, spicy smells. Next to it, she was preparing fresh pasta with a light tomato sauce. On another counter, she had laid out ingredients for tacos and was mixing spices for a mild curry. "Food is how we show love and friendship on Earth," Hyejin said, tasting the soup and adding more seasoning. "Every culture has different ways of preparing meals, but the purpose is the same. We feed each other to take care of each other." A soft chime indicated someone was at the door. Jinwoo opened it to find Velthar, standing in the corridor. The alien had changed from its formal diplomatic clothing into something simpler. Behind Velthar, Jinwoo was surprised to see the Krilltak representative and two other aliens he had not met before. "I hope you do not mind," Velthar said through its translator. Others became curious about this human ritual. Zek of the Krilltak insisted on observing for safety reasons. The insect-like Zek made a clicking sound. "Someone must ensure no biological contamination occurs. This behavior is highly irregular." The other two aliens introduced themselves. One was Kor, a member of the Gorthak warrior species. He was tall and muscular, with thick gray skin and small eyes that seemed to see everything at once. The other was Lyra, representing the energy-based Lumnari. She appeared as a floating collection of lights that shifted colors when she spoke. "Welcome," Jinwoo said. "Please come in. Hyejin has prepared several different dishes to show the variety of human cuisine." The aliens entered the small kitchen area cautiously. Velthar immediately moved toward the cooking area, its large eyes focusing on the bubbling pot of kimchi jjigae. The gills on its neck opened and closed rapidly. "What is that smell?" Velthar asked. "Fermented vegetables cooked with pork and seasonings," Hyejin explained. "It is a traditional dish from Korea, the region of Earth where Jinwoo and I were born." Kor stepped closer to where Hyejin was grilling meat for the tacos. "You apply heat to protein. This is similar to how we prepare our rations, but the smell is different." "We use spices and herbs to change the flavor," Hyejin said. "Each combination creates a different experience for our senses." "Flavor," Velthar repeated the word slowly. "Your briefings mentioned this concept, but I do not understand it fully." Lyra's lights pulsed with curiosity. "Energy beings do not consume matter as you do, but we sense the chemical reactions occurring in your food. They are quite complex." Hyejin smiled and began plating small portions of each dish. "In human culture, we believe you cannot understand food by just looking at it or smelling it. You have to taste it." Zek made an alarmed, chittering sound. "Consumption by non-human species is forbidden without proper medical approval. The risk of biological incompatibility is significant." But Velthar was staring at the small plate Hyejin had prepared. It contained a tiny portion of each dish, arranged carefully like artwork. Steam rose from the food, carrying the mixed aromas throughout the room. "The visual presentation is aesthetically pleasing," Velthar observed. "You create beauty with your nutrients." "Food is art," Hyejin agreed, "but art that nourishes the body and brings joy to the spirit." Velthar reached out one long, thin finger and touched the edge of the plate. "Joy. Another concept that does not translate well into our language." Jinwoo watched as internal struggle played out across Velthar's face. The alien was clearly fascinated, but also afraid. "You don't have to do anything that makes you uncomfortable," Jinwoo said gently. "My curiosity outweighs my caution," Velthar replied. The alien picked up a small piece of bread that Hyejin had prepared, just plain bread with a tiny amount of butter. "If this causes biological harm, the fault is my own choice." Zek stepped forward quickly. "I must protest this action. The council will not approve." But Velthar was already bringing the bread to its mouth. The alien's mouth was different from a human's, with no visible teeth, but it seemed capable of breaking down solid matter. Velthar bit the bread carefully and began to chew slowly. For several seconds, nothing happened. The alien's expression remained neutral as it processed the simple food. Then, suddenly, the patches of skin along Velthar's arms began to glow with a soft blue light. "What is happening?" So Young asked, raising her scanning device. Velthar's eyes went wide. The alien made a sound that the translator could not convert to words. The blue lights along its skin began pulsing in complex patterns that none of the humans had ever seen before. "Velthar?" Jinwoo asked with concern. The alien swallowed the bread and stood perfectly still for a moment. When it spoke, its voice was different, softer somehow. I understand now. This is flavor." Kor stepped closer. "You are experiencing biochemical changes. Your skin patterns indicate elevated neural activity." "Yes," Velthar said, and for the first time Jinwoo heard emotion in the alien's voice. "For the first time in my life, I understand what satisfaction means." Without hesitation, Velthar reached for another piece of food, this time trying a small spoonful of the mild curry. The reaction was even stronger. The blue light spread across its entire body, creating patterns like living artwork. "This is incredible," Velthar whispered. "Each combination of substances creates different sensations, different experiences." The alien looked up at Hyejin with something that could only be described as wonder. "How many different flavors do humans know?" Hyejin grinned. "Thousands, maybe millions. Every region of Earth has developed its own cuisine over thousands of years." Velthar tried the pasta next, then a small piece of taco. With each new flavor, the light patterns on its skin became more complex and beautiful. The other aliens watched, in stunned silence as their logical, emotionless colleague transformed before their eyes. "I need to try everything," Velthar said, reaching for the kimchi jjigae. That was when Jinwoo realized they might have made a terrible mistake. The first alien diplomat tried human cuisine. The aftermath got it banned. Across the sector, the kimchi jjigae was too spicy for Velthar. The alien's reaction was immediate and dramatic. The blue lights covering its skin flashed bright red, and it made a sound like steam escaping from a broken pipe. But instead of showing pain or distress, Velthar seemed excited. "This sensation is intense," Velthar said, breathing heavily through its gills. "It causes discomfort, yet I wish to experience it again." Zek moved closer with obvious concern. "Your biological readings are extremely elevated. This is dangerous behavior." But Velthar ignored the warning and took another small taste of the spicy soup. This time, the red lights mixed with gold patterns, creating swirling colors across the alien's skin like a living painting. "I have never felt anything like this," Velthar said. "For my entire life, I have consumed nutrients for survival only. But this makes me feel alive in a way I did not know was possible." Jinwoo watched nervously as news alerts began appearing on his communication device. Word of what was happening had somehow reached Federation channels. The headlines were alarming. "Murdai delegate violates biological safety protocols," and "Human contamination spreads to Federation representative." Dr. So Young was scanning Velthar with every device she had. "The neural activity in your brain has increased by 400%, she reported. "Areas that were completely inactive before are now showing massive energy spikes." "What does this mean?" Velthar asked. "I think," So Young said carefully, "human food has awakened parts of your brain that your species stopped using long ago." Velthar turned to look at her with those large, dark eyes. "Awakened? Your people evolved past the need for individual pleasure and emotion," So Young explained. "You became perfectly logical and efficient, but the neural pathways for feeling joy and satisfaction never disappeared. They just went to sleep." Kor, the Gorthak warrior, had been watching everything with growing interest. Among my people, we consume only protein paste for efficiency. But I have heard stories of our ancestors who prepared food over fires. He looked at Hyejin. Could a Gorthak experience what Velthar is experiencing? Before anyone could stop him, Kor reached for a piece of grilled meat from the taco preparation. His thick fingers were clumsy with the small portion, but he managed to bring it to his mouth. The effect on Kor was different but equally dramatic. The warrior's small eyes went wide, and he made a deep rumbling sound in his throat. "By the ancient fires," he whispered, "this is how food was meant to be." Zek made urgent clicking sounds. "Two contaminations. The council must be notified immediately." But even as Zek spoke, Jinwoo noticed the insect-like alien moving closer to the food. Its compound eyes were focused on the pasta dish, and one of its 4 arms twitched toward the plate. Lyra, the energy being, pulsed with bright colors. "I cannot consume your matter-based food, but I can sense the electromagnetic changes in both subjects. Their brain patterns have become more complex, more creative." Over the next several hours, news of Velthar's experience spread through the Federation communication networks faster than light-speed travel. The Merdai Council on their homeworld received detailed reports about their representatives' unusual behavior. Other species began asking questions about human cuisine. Velthar spent the time trying every piece of food Hyejin had prepared. The alien discovered preferences. It preferred sweet flavors to bitter ones, enjoyed soft textures more than crunchy ones, and found that certain spice combinations created pleasant sensations while others were overwhelming. "This is incredible," Velthar said, carefully tasting a piece of chocolate that Hyejin had saved for last. The alien's entire body lit up with golden light. "Each substance creates a unique experience, and when combined with others, they create entirely new experiences. That's cooking," Hyejin explained. "It's art and science and culture all combined into one activity." "Art," Velthar repeated. "Yes. I understand this concept now in a way I never could before." Jinwoo received an urgent message on his communication device. The Federation Council was demanding an immediate meeting about the biological contamination incident. The Merdai Council was also sending representatives to investigate what they called individual deviation behavior in their delegate. But the most concerning message came from the Human Command Center on Earth. They had intercepted Federation communications, suggesting that some species were considering the events a deliberate act of biological warfare by humans. "We need to be very careful," Jinwoo told his team. "Some species think we did this on purpose to disrupt their societies." So Young looked up from her research. "According to my scans, what happened to Velthar is not temporary. The neural pathways that were activated are now permanently changed. Even if Velthar never eats human food again, it will continue to experience emotions and individual desires." "Is that bad?" Velthar asked. "Not bad," So Young replied, "but different. Your people have lived as a collective society for thousands of years. Individual desires might be seen as dangerous to that system." Velthar was quiet for a long moment, the lights under its skin pulsing slowly. "I cannot return to my previous existence," it finally said. "Now that I know joy is possible, how can I accept a life without it?" That evening, as Jinwoo prepared for the Emergency Federation meeting, he found Velthar sitting by the large windows looking out at the stars. The alien held a cup of tea that Hyejin had prepared, sipping it slowly and watching the lights play across its skin with each taste. "Do you regret what happened?" Jinwoo asked. "Regret," Velthar said, considering the word. "Another emotion. I now understand." The alien turned to look at Jinwoo. "No, I do not regret it. For the first time in my life, I feel truly alive. But I fear what this will mean for others of my kind." Jinwoo sat down beside the alien. Through the window, He could see Federation ships arriving at the station. Tomorrow's meeting would determine the future of human-alien relations. Change is never easy, Jinwoo said. But sometimes it's necessary. Perhaps, Velthar replied, taking another sip of tea. But I suspect the Federation will not see it that way. Jinwoo had no idea how right Velthar would turn out to be. The first alien diplomat tried human cuisine, the aftermath, got it banned. Across the sector, 3 weeks after the first taste, the galaxy was in chaos. What the Federation Council now called the human contamination had spread to 12 different species across 8 star systems. Each alien race that tried human cuisine underwent similar transformations, and each transformation shattered thousands of years of social order. Jinwoo stood in the expanded kitchen facility that had been hastily built on Harmony Point. What started as a small diplomatic kitchen had become something resembling a cooking school for aliens. Chef Hai-Jin moved between different cooking stations, teaching beings who had never prepared food how to create their own meals. At one station, 3 Gorthak warriors worked together to grill meat over an open flame. They had discovered that competition made food taste better, and now they argued playfully about whose technique produced superior results. Their leader, Kor, had declared himself master of the sacred fire and wore a crude apron made from station materials. "Mine is perfectly charred," Kor announced, holding up a piece of meat. "Yours is still weak and soft." His companion Breck snorted with amusement. "Your meat is burned to ash. Watch a true warrior work." He flipped his food with elaborate movements, showing off for the others. 3 months ago, Gorthak warriors never played, never showed off, and certainly never laughed. They followed orders, ate protein paste, and prepared for battle. Now they spent hours experimenting with different cooking methods and arguing about seasoning. At another station, a group of Krilltak worked with intense focus on what they called precision food sculpture. Their natural ability to work with their hands made them excellent at detailed food presentation. But the most remarkable change was that they were working as individuals, each creating different designs instead of thinking as a collective unit. Zek, the Krilltak who had originally protested the food sharing, was now one of the most enthusiastic cooks. Its 4 arms moved in complex patterns as it arranged tiny vegetables into intricate patterns. "The balance of color and texture must be perfect," Zek said to its companions. "Each individual piece contributes to the whole, but each piece is also beautiful on its own." This was revolutionary thinking for the Krilltak. For thousands of years, they had valued only the collective, never the individual. Now they were discovering that individual creativity could make the group stronger. Engineer Taemin had been working day and night to create cooking tools that different species could use. He built special grills that could handle the extreme heat that Gorthak preferred, delicate instruments that allowed Krilltak to make precise cuts, and containment systems that let energy-based beings like the Lumnari interact with solid food through electromagnetic fields. "I never thought I would become a kitchen equipment designer," Taemin told Jinwoo as he adjusted a specialized cutting tool for a species with crystalline hands. "But this is the most important engineering work I have ever done." Dr. So Young was documenting everything. Her research showed that human food was not just changing alien behavior, but actually rewiring their brains. Species that had evolved past individual thinking were rediscovering creativity, curiosity, and personal preferences. "The changes are permanent," So Young reported during a video call with Earth authorities. "Once these neural pathways are activated, they continue to develop. We are watching millions of years of evolution reverse in a matter of weeks." The Federation response was swift and harsh. Military ships surrounded Harmony Point, preventing any aliens from leaving with human food or recipes. Federation science teams arrived to study what they called the contamination and develop methods to reverse it. But the changes had already spread too far. On 12 worlds, alien citizens were demanding access to something called flavor. When their governments refused, protests began. On the Meridai homeworld, thousands of citizens abandoned their assigned living areas to gather in groups, sharing smuggled human spices and talking about something they called individual rights. Velthar had become the symbol of this revolution. The alien broadcast messages across Federation space describing the experience of tasting freedom. For my entire life, I believed existence was enough, Velthar said in one transmission that was viewed by billions. But now I know that existence without joy is not truly living. The Federation tried to block these transmissions, but the message had already taken root. On Gorthak Prime, warriors refused to eat protein paste and demanded access to cooking, fires. On the Krilltok colonies, individuals began making personal choices instead of following collective decisions. The most dramatic change occurred on Silnari space stations. The crystalline beings discovered that certain mineral combinations created flavor-like experiences when absorbed into their bodies. They began creating elaborate taste gardens, where different crystals were arranged to produce complex flavor experiences. For the first time in their species' history, Silnari began expressing individual artistic preferences. Jinwu received daily reports of the chaos spreading through Federation space. Trade routes changed as species began seeking Earth's agricultural products instead of traditional Federation resources. Some aliens abandoned their homeworlds entirely, seeking refuge near human space where they could continue experiencing food. "We have created a galaxy-wide revolution," Jinwu told his team during their evening meeting. "And I'm not sure if that's good or bad." Chef Hae-jin looked up from the notes she was writing about alien cooking preferences. "Every revolution starts with someone asking, 'Why can't I have what others have?' We just gave them something worth fighting for." The Emergency Federation Council meeting was scheduled for the next day. Representatives from 50 species would decide whether to ban all human food permanently and how to punish the humans for what many considered biological warfare. But as Jinwu walked through the expanded kitchen that evening, seeing beings from different worlds working together to create food and share meals, he wondered if the Federation had any power to stop what had already begun. In the corner, Velthar was teaching a young Krilltak how to make tea. The alien's skin glowed with gentle blue light as it carefully showed the proper temperature for steeping the leaves. "Patience is part of the flavor," Velthar explained. "If you rush, you miss the subtlety." The Krilltak student tried the tea, and its compound eyes went wide with wonder. "I understand," it said. "This is not just about nutrition. This is about taking time to experience beauty." Jinwu realized that tomorrow's Federation meeting might determine the political future of human-alien relations, but it could not change what these beings had already discovered about themselves. They had tasted freedom, and there was no going back. The first alien diplomat tried human cuisine. The aftermath got it banned. Across the sector, the Federation Emergency Council chamber was the largest meeting space Jinwu had ever seen. Representatives from 50 species filled the circular amphitheater, their various forms of communication creating a chaos of sounds, lights, and electromagnetic pulses. At the center sat the ancient Void-Helm Supreme Chancellor, a being so old that its metallic body showed the wear of millennia. "The human contamination must be contained," announced Chancellor Nexus, its voice echoing through translation devices in dozens of languages. What began as diplomatic contact has become biological warfare against the established order of galactic civilization. Jinwu sat in the designated human area, flanked by Dr. So Young and Engineer Tae Min. Behind them, Chef Hae-jin watched, nervously as her simple act of sharing food was described as an attack on the galaxy. Representative after representative stood to describe the chaos in their territories. The Krilltak speaker reported that 17 colonies had experienced complete breakdown of collective decision-making. Individual Krilltak were refusing work assignments and demanding personal time for something they called cooking creativity. The Gorthak military commander reported that 3 warrior battalions had abandoned their posts to establish what they called cooking competitions. Soldiers who should have been preparing for defense were instead arguing about proper meat preparation techniques. But the most serious report came from the Merdai Council representative. The aquatic being's gills flapped rapidly as it spoke. Our entire social structure is collapsing. Citizens are abandoning their assigned roles to form what they call flavor-sharing groups. They refuse to consume regulation nutrients and demand access to what they term individual choice foods. Chancellor Nexus turned its ancient eyes toward Jin Wu. Ambassador of Earth, you stand accused of deliberately introducing biological agents designed to disrupt Federation society. How do you respond? Jin Wu stood slowly. The weight of 50 species' attention pressed down on him like a physical force. Honored Chancellor, we never intended to cause disruption. We offered to share our food culture as a gesture of friendship and understanding. Friendship, the Chancellor repeated, the word carrying clear contempt. Your friendship has destabilized 12 worlds and threatens the peace we have maintained for 8,000 years. From the gallery reserved for affected species, Velthar stood up. The Merdai's skin glowed with the blue patterns that had become familiar since its first taste of human food. I request permission to speak. A ripple of shocked silence passed through the chamber. Individual representatives never spoke without permission from their councils. You will be silent, commanded the Merdai Council representative. You are contaminated and do not speak for our species. But Velthar continued, speaking. I speak for myself, as an individual being with the right to experience joy and make personal choices. The concept of individual rights was so foreign to most Federation species that the translation devices struggled to convert Velthar's words. Several representatives made sounds of confusion or alarm. Chancellor Nexus raised one metallic hand for silence. The contaminated being will not be heard. Its judgment has been compromised by human biological warfare. Jinwu felt anger building in his chest. It is not warfare. It is food. Every species in this chamber has the right to experience pleasure and make personal choices about what they consume. Rights, the Chancellor said. Another dangerous human concept. The Federation maintains order through collective responsibility and adherence to established systems. Individual desires lead to chaos. As if to prove the Chancellor's point, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Security reports flooded in about disturbances on Federation ships. Crew members who had secretly obtained human food were refusing orders and demanding better meals. The situation escalated quickly. On the Gorthak battleship Iron Fist, warriors had taken control of the food preparation areas and were grilling meat in the engine rooms. The ship's commander reported that his crew was singing war songs about barbecue techniques instead of following military protocols. A Krilltak research vessel reported that its science team had abandoned their assigned research to conduct experiments on optimal vegetable preparation methods. They had created artistic food sculptures throughout the ship and refused to dismantle them when ordered. Chancellor Nexus stood, its ancient form towering over the chamber. This contamination spreads faster than any disease we have encountered. It transforms rational beings into chaos-driven individuals who threaten the very foundation of our civilization. The Chancellor activated a holographic display showing the spread of what it called food contamination across Federation space. Red dots marked worlds where humans had shared food, while spreading yellow areas showed where the infection had spread to untouched populations. Effective immediately, all human food, recipes, cooking methods, and agricultural products are banned throughout Federation space. Any being caught consuming, preparing, or distributing human cuisine will be exiled from Federation territory. Jin Woo stood again. You cannot ban food. You cannot ban the right of beings to choose what they eat. We can, and we will, the Chancellor replied. Furthermore, the human species is hereby expelled from Federation membership consideration. All humans must leave Federation space within 30 standard days. From the gallery, voices began rising in protest. These were not human voices, but the affected aliens who had discovered food and individual choice. Velthar stood with several other Merdai who had been changed by the experience. Kor led a group of Gorthak warriors who chanted something that sounded like barbecue freedom. You cannot exile us for learning to experience joy, Velthar called out. We will not return to lives of empty existence. Chancellor Nexus activated. Security protocols. Armed Federation forces entered the chamber to remove the contaminated aliens. But something unprecedented happened. Instead of submitting to authority as they had been trained to do for thousands of years, the affected aliens resisted. Gorthak warriors formed protective circles around Merdai and Kriltak. The different species, who had barely tolerated each other before, now worked together to protect their shared right to experience flavor and joy. This is revolution, the Chancellor declared. The human contamination has destroyed the natural order. Jin Woo watched in amazement as beings from different worlds stood together against the Federation forces. They were not fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for the right to taste freedom. The confrontation lasted for hours. Federation forces were trained to handle military conflicts, but they had no protocols for dealing with citizens, who simply refused to give up individual pleasures. The affected aliens did not attack. They simply stood their ground and declared their intention to continue cooking and eating together. Finally, Chancellor Nexus announced the final decision. All contaminated beings are hereby exiled from Federation space. They will be escorted to the border regions and forbidden from returning. The human contamination ends here. As Jin Woo was led away under guard, he saw Velthar being separated from other Merdai. The alien skin patterns showed complex emotions that his species was never supposed to experience. But despite facing exile from everything it had ever known, Velthar seemed strangely peaceful. Was it worth it? Jin Woo asked, as they were led to the transport ships. Velthar considered the question for a moment, then smiled. An expression the Merdai had never shown before experiencing human cuisine. Ask me that question in 5 years, when we have built our own worlds where every being can choose their own path. Jin Woo realized that losing the Federation might have been the best thing that could have happened to both humans and their new alien friends. The first alien diplomat tried human cuisine. The aftermath got it banned across the sector. 5 years after the Great Food Ban, Ambassador Jin Woo stood on the observation deck of New Harmony Station, watching the sunset over the first joint, human-alien colony world. The planet below was green and blue, with cities that mixed human architecture with alien designs. Smoke rose from countless cooking fires as beings from dozens of species prepared their evening meals together. The Free Taste Coalition had grown far beyond what anyone had imagined. What started with a few exiled aliens and the human delegation had become a thriving alliance of 23 different species. They called themselves the Free Worlds, and their only rule was simple. Every being had the right to choose their own food and their own path in life. The Harvest Festival preparations are going well, He-Jin reported, joining Jin Woo at the window. She now held the official title of Cultural Exchange Director, but everyone simply called her Teacher He-Jin. She had trained thousands of aliens in cooking techniques, and they had taught her things about food that no human had ever known. Below them, the festival grounds showed the remarkable changes that 5 years had brought. Gorthak warriors tended massive barbecue pits, competing good-naturedly with Krilltak teams who specialized in delicate vegetable sculptures. Former Merdai collective units had become individual chefs, each developing their own signature dishes using ingredients from their ocean homeworlds. The Silnari had created mineral gardens that produced flavor experiences when their crystalline bodies absorbed different combinations. They had learned to cook with light and temperature, creating taste sensations that even humans found amazing. "How many Federation refugees this month?" Jin Woo asked. 7,000, Hyejin replied. "Word is still spreading. The Federation tries to block our communications, but aliens are finding ways to learn about food freedom." The exodus from Federation space had never stopped. Beings who heard stories about the right to individual choice and flavor experiences risked everything to escape to free world territory. They came in small groups, often traveling for months through dangerous space to reach the border worlds. Dr. So Young approached with her latest research reports. "The neural changes are still spreading through second and third generation aliens," she announced. "Children born to contaminated parents show even stronger individual creativity and emotional capacity." "Evolution in real time," Jin Woo mused. "More than that," So Young continued. "We are seeing completely new art forms, music styles, and scientific approaches. When beings are allowed to think as individuals while still cooperating as communities, they create things that neither pure collective nor pure individual societies ever achieved." Through the observation window, Jin Woo could see proof of this evolution. The city below featured architecture that no single species could have designed. Gorthak engineering strength combined with Krilltak artistic detail and human creativity had produced buildings that were both beautiful and incredibly functional. The agricultural districts showed similar cooperation. Merdai water management, systems nourished crops developed by human farmers and tended by Silnari who could precisely control soil mineral content. The resulting food was better than anything any single species had ever produced. Engineer Tae-min joined them, looking tired but satisfied. "The new settlements on the outer worlds are reporting successful first harvests. We now have 68 colony worlds producing food for the Free Worlds Alliance." "Any word from Federation space?" Jin Woo asked. Tae-min's expression grew serious. "The reports are troubling. The Federation is becoming more rigid, more controlling. They have banned not just human food, but any food preparation beyond basic nutrient consumption. Several species are reporting population declines as beings lose the motivation to reproduce in such restrictive conditions, and the resistance movements growing stronger. On 17 Federation worlds, underground groups are secretly preparing and sharing food. They call themselves Flavor Freedom Fighters. The Federation military is having trouble stopping them because the movement is not violent. They simply cook meals and share them with others." Jin Woo nodded. The revolution that started with kimchi jjigae had grown into something that no military force could stop. It was impossible to fight against beings who only wanted the right to experience joy. A soft chime indicated that the evening meal was being served in the station's main dining hall. Jin Woo and his team made their way down to join the daily tradition that had become the heart of free world society. The dining hall was enormous, designed to accommodate the different physical needs of dozens of species. Gorthak sat at reinforced tables near the barbecue stations. Merdai relaxed in specially designed pools while sharing aquatic dishes. Krilltak gathered around low tables where they could display their artistic food creations. At the center of the hall, a mixed group of species sat together at tables designed for integration. This was where the real magic happened. Humans taught aliens about spices and seasonings. Aliens showed humans ingredients and cooking methods that had never been imagined on Earth. Jin Woo found his usual seat next to Velthar, who had become the unofficial leader of the Free World Political Council. The Merdai's skin still glowed with the same blue patterns that had first appeared when it tasted bread and butter years ago. "Any news from your homeworld?" Jin Woo asked. Velthar's expression showed sadness, an emotion that the Merdai had learned to experience and express. The Council has declared all free world Merdai to be dead to the species. We no longer exist in their records. The alien paused to sip from a cup of tea that had become its evening ritual. But 3 more transport ships arrived this week, carrying those who chose taste over tradition. Chef Hyojin brought them plates of the evening's special meal, a fusion dish that combined human techniques with alien ingredients. The main course was a protein similar to fish, but from a land animal, prepared with spices that created flavor combinations impossible on either Earth or the alien homeworlds. "This is new," Jinwoo said, tasting the complex dish. "Created by a team of young Kriltak who were born here on New Harmony," Hyojin explained. "They have no memory of collective thinking. They cook as individuals but share their knowledge freely. They are creating entirely new cuisines." Around the dining hall, similar innovations were happening at every table. Former Federation species were not just copying human food, but creating their own culinary traditions inspired by the freedom to experiment and choose. After the meal, Jinwoo walked outside to watch the stars. 5 years ago, he had simply wanted to establish diplomatic relations with alien species. Instead, he had accidentally started a galactic revolution based on the simple idea that every being deserved the right to experience joy. Velthar joined, him under the alien constellations. "Do you ever regret what happened?" the Merdai asked. Jinwoo considered the question while looking out at the thriving colony below. Cooking fires dotted the landscape like stars, each one representing beings who had chosen freedom over security, individual experience over collective conformity. "The Federation called it contamination," Jinwoo replied. "But I think we just reminded the galaxy that living is more than just existing." "Indeed," Velthar agreed, the alien's skin glowing softly in the darkness. "We learned that the most important ingredient in any meal is the freedom to choose it." In the distance, ships were arriving with more refugees from Federation space. Tomorrow there would be more beings to teach, more cultures to explore, and more fusion dishes to create. The revolution that started with a simple invitation to share food had become something that would reshape the galaxy forever. Jinwoo smiled as he headed back inside. He had work to do. After all, tomorrow was another day, and there were always more people to feed.